choice. How do you handle some of the situations that come up with people's lives? Turns out I talked to Robbie this morning. We talked for a couple hours, and it's reassuring, I guess, to see how we process things. Like, you and I will just tear stuff to pieces for funsies, and other people don't even know to do that. And so he sent out our videos, the stuff that we've been doing already, and he's like, man, like, people tell me I'm going deep, and then I watch what your guys' stuff, and like, I didn't even consider going into the conversations you guys had. And I'm like, oh, these are just on camera conversations for Eddie and I. The ones we have off camera are even deeper than this, which is which is ironic, I guess, as far as what impact would we be having by doing these breakdowns like this.
Well, if we had all of our conversations on camera, we would have no less than 10 consecutive hours at this point, just in the last week.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And what's cool is the impact that would have on somebody's life, whether it be talking about religion or love or relationships or working through just basic problems like that. We can just like, well, what do you think about it? Let's do the devil's advocate, or let me try to advocate for the other side and see what that looks like, and break down, like, what's the reason it's there? What's the purpose for it? How can we use it more effectively? Is there a way to improve what we do? And these why questions or how questions are not usually asked by most people. So kind of fun to be able to break into some of this with another person who equally likes to do it.
I agree. I don't know why more people don't ask why. I was yelled at as a kid constantly for asking so many questions, but that's how I obtained the knowledge that I needed to be able to understand what it was that I was going through. So as an adult, being able to do that, to be able to like break into all the things I was normally told to just accept, I enjoy it. And then finding someone that does the same thing leads into a wild range of conversations.
It's a good times, but it turns out that wild range of conversations we have can be highly beneficial to somebody who can step back, listen to how we do our wild range, process it, and then apply it themselves in whatever ways they've taken whatever piece that we've gotten to them. So that's why this is something that's really fun for you and me to do, because we can give that to somebody. It may save a marriage. It may stop a suicide. It may make it so somebody can overcome a challenge. They can let go of something that's been troubling them, whatever the thing that ends up being. If we can help even a little, that's awesome. One thing that impacted me recently, and I'm going to get into the question that was sent to us a little bit ago. One of the things that recently impacted me in like my chest, like I could feel it in here, was I had one of Andrea's friend's daughters. I don't think I'd met her. I seen her at a wedding a long time ago, but I didn't recognize her when she came up to me because we didn't talk very much even when I did see her. And she came up and she said she's already lost 70 pounds. She's changed her life around. A whole lot of stuff has changed. And a lot of the stuff that she's applied comes from what she's seen us do in our videos for Just a Mile a Day, the stuff that we do on the Jam Fam program, those things that she says she watches later when we're not live. And applying these things has made her lose, in essence, a seventh grader's worth of weight. And she looked great, changed her whole life, changed her whole things. And the point of it is, I didn't even know she was watching. Had no idea. I didn't know the impact that was having because I wasn't interacting. She didn't interact with me. We didn't know. And she's already lost 70 pounds. And she said, keep doing what you're doing because it makes a big difference. And I had no idea, none. So the point is even these conversations, we'll put it up and I don't know who's going to watch it. I have no idea who it would impact. And I hope that it's something great, but you never know who you're impacting by just doing what you're doing. It may be regular for us or even another person who's doing what they regularly do, and they don't realize they may be inspiring somebody or they may be changing a viewpoint or helping them feel better just because that person's doing what they do. Never know. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing that just happened. And so I'm proud to do this with you. This is a fun thing. We never know who we're going to impact.
No, that's what's up. Next time we talk to her, tell her, say congrats. And you make a good point. All of your actions have the potential to impact somebody else's life, even whether you intend for it to or not, good and bad. So that's why I normally try just to do the things that I feel like my moral compass points me in the direction like, yeah, this should be happening. Because whether I intend to influence my nephew or a friend of mine or a random stranger at the grocery store, I very well could with whatever it is that I do or say. So if I'm going to influence you indirectly, hopefully it's in a positive manner.
Yeah, ideally. Man, you don't really know. I'm gonna take us off onto this topic for a little while. We're gonna get to this question soon, but just on that, I'm thinking back and doing my own self reflection on things. Like recently, I wrote out like stuff that I've been through in my life to kind of make sure that like I'm in a healthy way processing through like the traumas, the abuses, the abandonment, the confrontation, like the rejections, the pain that I've been through in my life. And I realized something happened when I was a little kid. This is one of those you never know your impact moments. I was sick in the hospital, and I had to be maybe like eight to nine range. I wasn't even 10 yet. 8 to 9 range, and I was in the hospital with like pneumonia or the flu or something. I was in there with something. Now they were keeping me overnight to make sure that I was okay. I'm a kid. We were bouncing back, no problems. I'm okay, but I had my it may have been a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo. It had to be like a Super Nintendo or something because we had Street Fighter 2. And so it had to be Super Nintendo. And so I had my Super Nintendo there, and the nurses came in. Now I'm an 8, 9 year old boy with video games. I'd whoop your ass. Like my reflexes are so fast because being a little kid, you just got those fast reflexes. And I'm playing this game all the time. Me and my buddies, you already know. When Street Fighter 2 came out, that was it. So the nurse comes in with her friend, and both nurses are in there. And then I'm like, "You want to play with me?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's play. Let's play." Now, me being a kid, understanding restraint and understanding make it fun and keep it playful. I don't know. I just got someone with player two, and I'm gonna whoop their ass. And that's what I did. I stomped this lady. I had Chun Li doing the kick thing, and she couldn't get past it. I would E Honda the hand thing. She couldn't get past it. Whatever it was a beat down. And I remember her after I beat her a few times. She said, "You're not fun to play with." And she put the controller down and said, "I'm not playing with you anymore." And then she left. And as like an 8, 9 year old, like I still remember to this day, because of that, I still catch myself trying to be like a very humble winner. Like if I win, like not make a big deal, not be like, "Ooh, in your face." Like, like good game, hey, GG, like have a good, like be cool about it. But because of that one little interaction where she's like, "You're not fun to play with. I'm not playing with you anymore." I'm an 8 year old, 9 year old kid. That's an adult. And like I had to process that to make me like such a humble like winner, which sounds positive, but I took it in a very unpositive way to almost where I can't be proud of myself. Like I couldn't be happy with a victory. I couldn't be proud of myself for a success because if I get too excited or I get too happy for winning, people won't play with me anymore because I'm not fun to play with. It's a funny thing as far as you never know that impact. That nurse has no idea who I am, has no clue. I don't even know who she is. It's been, 22 years. No idea.
She has no idea she gave you a complex.
Right. And as a little kid, I didn't understand that was a complex. I was just like, man, I won't have anybody play with me anymore. Because mind you, that was the only people I was interacting with, which means when I'm not fun to play with and you're not playing with me anymore, the rest of the game is again just me playing by myself for the whole rest of the time I'm going to be here. So like it was a combination of rejection, combination of, like shame, combination of like making somebody else feel bad. There's all these feelings that start coming into this moment that as a little kid, I'm not processing. And I just know I'm not fun to play with. And people won't play with me if I win too hard. So again, such a small moment, but you don't know how much impact. It wasn't until probably in my early 30s, I started processing why I was even doing like some of like the super humble, like, hey, yeah, I won. You won first place, man. You got the trophy. I'm like, yeah, no, thank you, no problem. Like, it's cool. Like, no celebration almost at all. And it's one of those things where, now I've let it go. I'll be proud of myself still, but didn't realize that moment had the impact that it did. And that's just one of like 1,000 things that happen in your life that make you go like, oh man, maybe I should be different than I am, but not in a good way.
Well, I mean, it seems like you changed yourself. You changed yourself on account of somebody else's outlook, opinion, feelings, whatever. And in this case, it seems like you changed that because you you felt empathy towards that. Like you saw that it made them feel unhappy or weary or uncomfortable or whatever the case may be. So rather than continuing that, you managed to be able to still get your victories, still have your moments, but you reduced the amount of gloating that you did. Boasting and bragging resulted in you having somebody else's feelings hurt or not wanting to be around you or enjoy your company or play with you. So you altered that.
Yeah. In theory, the way you explained it sounds very good. But the way I did it was a little less healthy than that because it would almost make me feel shame instead of being proud of myself.
I
Like
think
so
there's a
that's
balance.
yeah, I didn't have it balanced out until I got a lot older. But as a kid, I couldn't balance it out. I just knew it was a rejection and that I wasn't fun to play with. Like it's
Well, do worse.
yeah, right. And yeah, but I grew up in this. All right, here's another impact thing. Here's another one. Same kind of scenario. I'm at home and we've got a PlayStation 1. I got to be maybe 13 at this point. Um, my dad it was very psychologically unhealthy. He had the ability to be able to kind of read people very fast, but because he wasn't very healthy in his mind, he would spot someone's weakness and just exploit it to hurt them because hurt people hurt people. And so he would just be mean to people. Now, I learned a long time ago from this nurse that if I just go in and beat your ass inside out, you don't want to play because I'm not fun to play with. And I wanted to be able to try and still at that point have a relationship with my dad to where I could be like, we can at least do things together. But I'm playing a lot of Tekken and I whoop your ass as a Tekken. I was good. I was Paul Phoenixing people across the room. Like, no problem. Play some Law. It was awesome. I loved it. So I had my dad pick up the controller and I was like, all right, I'm going to let him win a couple. So he's like, it's not just an ass whooping. And then, put it on him a little bit. And then, oh my gosh. And then from that point, we can do a little more back and forth, but at least it's an even match. It's kind of like, you see how dogs will wrestle and the big dog will like lay down and let the little dog get him a little bit. Just so like, animals know you can't just smash, you got to play. So the first round, I'm kind of toying with them. Like I'm dodging and moving and dodging, but I'm not hitting them back. I hit him a couple times, but then I like just kind of stand there and let him hit me a few times. He's just button mashing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so it's a slow go, but I just let him eventually knock me down. And round two, same thing. I put him down, and then next one, I'm like, all right, I'm going to let him win. So I essentially just let him win. After he wins, I'm like, good job, and he's like, good job. You suck at this game. He's like, you're not even any good at this. This is my first time playing and I beat your ass. It's like, you know what? I don't even need to play you anymore. I'm already the best. So I'm just going to retire the champ right now. I'm like, pick the controller up. Let's see if you're still the best. He's like, for what? You suck. I already beat you. He's like, there's nobody else to play. I'm just going to retire the champion right now. And, maybe you should practice, but maybe someday you're good enough to play me again. And he legitimately really did put the controller down and left. Like I let him win. And he told me I suck. I'm not any good. He's the champ now. And I'm not going to play you anymore. I'm going to retire the champion undefeated. 13, man. I do not have a processor for this.
That's a pretty good strategy, though.
Well, it messes people up because it's there's no positive to it. It's just being shitty to be shitty. I can't really break out like, yeah, this is a benefit. Like, it's just somebody kind of manipulating the situation into a, like, I know you let me win, but I'm gonna make you feel like an idiot for it. So
I think that goes into who you are as a person, though.
as a 13-year-old, I wasn't prepared for that.
He didn't have the humility. He didn't take your sacrifice to heart. You were not in his forefront of well-being. The moment you gave up and let him win, he instantly stood on top of you, proud as hell. It didn't matter if he knew or not. It didn't matter if you intended to. Victory was a victory to him. Your feelings were irrelevant. It was told to me by actually Chewy, one of our friends. If you're going to be someone's savior, just be prepared to get sacrificed or crucified, I believe is the correct word. If you're going to be someone's savior, be prepared to get crucified. And that comes into play a lot. So if you're going to lay down your sword for the best interest of somebody else, just make sure you know what you're doing, because you very well could be giving information to the enemy.
Well, at that point, I was hoping my dad wasn't my enemy.
More often than not, people that are closest to us are the ones that have the best advantage to hurt us.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's why relationships are crazy, man. That's why it's crazy. But anyways, the point for both of those stories is you don't know how much impact some of these stupid little moments have. You know what I mean? Like, what balance do I have with that? If I beat your ass, I'm not fun to play with. But if I let you win, I suck and I'll just be, you lose, you're a loser.
You're still not fun to play with.
Still not fun to play with. I'm like, I got no win here. So I think I just ended up going on with like, you know what? I'm going to beat your ass, but be real cool about it afterwards. Why do I have to hold back?
I still think a lot of that comes down to, are you doing it for you or for somebody else? Because if you're playing the game for somebody else's benefit rather than you're just playing the game to enjoy it for you, then yeah, you'll take the other person's situation into account and hold it priority over yours. So in the first situation, you dial down so that maybe they would stick around and play, their feelings wouldn't get hurt. In the second situation, you dialed down, they beat you, now you're no fun to play with, so they left. Either way, you lost. But in both situations, you weren't playing for you. You weren't living for you. You were living for them. It was their feelings and their outlook that ultimately decided whether or not you enjoyed what you were doing. So you weren't being selfish, but in turn, because you weren't doing it for you, you ended up creating yourself a complex on somebody else's thought process.
Yeah, good call, man. Like, yeah, the goal was to make it so I could have fun with someone else and make it fun for them. Hopefully they would have fun too. Like seeking whatever connection or not being alone or whatever it was I was trying to do. And I ended up becoming kind of collateral damage in both situations.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. It's a tough situations on some of those ones, but yeah.
I think as we grow, though, we start to learn to be able to read the room a little bit better, who the type of person is, how they are going to react to it. And then that's where I said like the balance before. It's a give and take, and that in no way, shape, or form applies to anybody in specific, or does it stay static? Because one person you could lose and they could stand on top of you as a victor, put the remote down and walk away. The other one, you're no fun to play with. You always win.
Yep. Now I'm far more balanced because like my Andrea, she doesn't even listen to this. So we've done all our stuff. She doesn't have time to listen to our podcast. And so she probably won't even listen to this, but we play Tetris nobody here can touch me in Tetris. We got this like versus mode Tetris, and I'm fast. I'm real good at it. But when we play together, like I let her win. Like it's not even really that close, but I like let her win like often. And I kind of make like a big deal about it. Like, oh man, dang, good game, good game. Okay, I'll get you on the next one. All right. Like you kind of make it like, oh, you got me there. Good one. Good one. Like you make it fun at least, like cheer them up or, cheer them on a little bit. Like you got it. Well done. But if I turn it on, it'd just be Smash City. Like I'm like when we're doing our 40 lines, I'm like a full minute faster than she is.
But I think that's where the whole balance, like you've had enough time to be able to practice this, read the room, know the person, how they would react in either scenario, and find that medium. But I think the biggest key here is you're not playing the game to enjoy the game. The game is the tool. You're playing to enjoy the company.
Yeah, correct, man.
So now that the company is balanced and you know how to balance it, even if she was to stand on top of you and go, "Oh my God, I beat you. You're absolute trash, or dog water, whatever the case," you'd be like, "All right."
Like I'm like that round I was. That round I was. We'll see. You know what? Round two. Let's see if I'm still hot dog water after this.
No, I'm gonna put the controller down. I'm gonna stand as the victor. Okay.
It does, at this point, I think it just came down to being 13. I didn't have the confidence or security in myself to understand oh, that's fine. Like I already know, after training in martial arts and learning how to do combat and being in enough fights where like there's no real room for like when you do hurt somebody or when you would win, that you have to like flex that. At this point, I know that I would win. So if she's like, I'm the best, you suck, I'd be like, in this case, you're right. And I'm good. Because if I really put it on you, it wouldn't even be a fight. So I don't need to prove anything. I don't have anything to show off on. I don't have anything to gloat about, anything to try to flex and show you I'm the best. Because if I'm better, I don't have to do anything about it. I'm not going to go compete on a world level. I don't know if you've seen, if you play versus on Tetris online, it's faster than the computer on expert. It's crazy. But against regular humans, I haven't been beaten. So it's one of those things where I don't have to flex. So if she did for any reason, which she's too competitive for that, but if she did for any reason try and drop the controller and be like, you suck, I'm the best, I don't think I would care. Like, yeah, you are. And I'll just build her up.
And that just came with time and experience. You were able to iron out the balance to that. And now it's no longer about winning or losing. You don't have to boast and brag. You just get to enjoy what it is while it is.
Yeah, when you see them boasting and bragging, I'm just happy that they're happy. You can see how happy they are bragging. Mm-hmm. I'm
their
happy you're happy.
Their joy brings you joy.
Yeah, I think it takes a little bit to get to that, and I think if you're not humble or confident enough in yourself, and you still get pissed off from losing, that's the exposure of your opportunity to grow. But anyways, that's part of the evolution and change. And speaking of change, that's what the question was for today that you saw in there. This one came from Jay Little. And he said, what about career shifting? He said, more like locking in on a new career with full energy and confidence. And I feel like it's a fair question. And my assessment on that question really did start in with like, how do you adapt to change? This gets into the race to acceptance, which I'll do a short thing on, which we get far more in depth, especially in Everything's a Choice. Our group, we get really deep on the race to acceptance, but also how to adapt to new situations. So I'm going to leave it in your court. How should people, let's just have the Eddie Thomas point of view. What is your opinion on like adapting to change before I get into all my research stuff?
10 words or less, always a lesson, never a loss. As long as you can see what it is in whatever happened and be able to take from that the positive and leave the negative, then you'll have a lot better and a lot easier transition into being able to adjust your footing to be able to approach whatever is next.
Well, that's
And
tough because people are going to like run into the unknown versus I know I'm losing something. So how would they see it? Like as a positive in that one?
okay, so you have your unknown, and that is a variable you can't calculate. Calculate what you can, though. Once you hit an unknown, it's no longer unknown. So now that you know it, you're left with two forks, left, right. Do I take the positive out of it and leave the negative, or do I look at the negative and ignore the positive? So once you're aware that you have the two options, no matter the circumstance, you may not have had the option to get into a car wreck, but you have the option to be able to look at what the car wreck was involved or what was involved in the car wreck. So yeah, you hit another car. You totaled yours. Now you have to look, do you have insurance? Yes. All right. So at least you had insurance. That can be fixed. Are you still alive? Yes. All right. So you're not dead. So you have the ability to fix it. These are positives out of a negative situation. Car can be fixed. You cannot. And on a simple level, I'm trying to keep this as basic as possible. So once you factor in all the tiny little micro spots within that, like, all right, yeah, you might not have the extra money for it, but you have the insurance to begin with. Now you factor in the money can come, you can earn that. Maybe there's a payment plan, whatever the case. But if you're only focused on the fact that you got into a car wreck and that messed up your entire day, you're not taking the positive out of it to be able to figure out how to rectify the situation. Now you're blinded to all the positive that could happen from it. Like, yeah, my car got wrecked, but it was kind of a hunk of shit anyway. Insurance is going to cover it. They're actually going to give me more than the car was worth. So I'll just take that, go buy myself another car. And yeah, it's fixed. My insurance covers a rental, so I'll have something to be able to get to and from. So like those are all the positives that you wouldn't see if you were just like, fuck, I hit a car. Damn it. It fucked up my entire week. Yeah, it will if you let it.
Yeah, I could agree. I actually have an entire section of almost that exact scenario in Everything is a Choice, where I say like the exact same scenario with two people where like you crash your car into a wall, like not even putting another person's life in danger, like you hit ice and hit a wall. And the point of view is exactly like you just said. One guy gets out like, this is bullshit. Fucking, they should take care of the roads. Fucking assholes. Like just losing their mind, blaming everybody, pissed at the car, pissed at everyone around, yelling at people driving by. Why aren't you fucking helping? Go to the office and just spill negativity and everybody. Like, oh, how's your day? I'll tell you mine. Yeah, lucky you. Look at me. Like just misery loves company, just constantly just miserable. And you have the other person who like smashes into that wall, airbags are off, scratches and whatever. And they get out and they look at the car and go, just that fast, that could have been it. Like this could have been my last moment. What was the last thing I said to my wife? What was the last thing I said to my mom or my dad or whoever? What was the last thing what grudges am I holding against an old friend? All that stuff would have just this second not mattered at all because this could have been my last moment. From this second forward, every second that I have is a gift. It's precious now because this should have been the end of it. And I made it. I'm not worried about the car. It's just a car. I almost died, but I didn't. And you start finding a new appreciation. I had this guy that, was a bully back when I was young. And he was a little guy, but he was a mean little dude. And so everybody would bully him back for just being just a cruel little person. And I remember seeing him a couple of years later. He got in a really bad car accident, just like that, almost died. And when I saw him again, I didn't even recognize it was him. because he was the nicest dude that I had seen probably in a long time. He was so kind and so considerate and so nice. He even bought me a present for my birthday. We used to bully this guy. We put him in the ice cooler and shut him in the thing. Like, the guy was mean, so we were mean to him. And this dude was just nothing but sweet. And they said, like, after that car accident, he stopped doing all of that, like that jerk stuff he was doing to everybody. He was not doing any more cruelty because it was like a eye-opening moment. And I think that's the perspective part. It feels like you're getting at is it's not what happens, it's the way that you're looking at what happened. And that's what gives you that fork that you said you can either go positive or just focus on the negative and skip the positive. And it's neat to see that in action because it was a sweet dude that I got to see after that. But before that was a guy nobody liked. Same guy, just his point of view got changed from having a near life experience.
No, I hear you. And the shift in perspective does play a lot. One of the things that I don't really care for is when people say think positive, get positive, because that's not the case. You can think as positive as you want to and still end up getting a whole bunch of shit dumped on you throughout your day. Like, it's a matter of how you're handling it. Like, this happened to you, but what are you reacting to it as? Like, are you just taking all of this absolute trash that happened in your day and just carrying it throughout the rest of it? Or are you going, yeah, that happened. It sucked. Couldn't do anything about it. Hate it. All right, what's next? One of my normal go-to analogies in a situation like this is two kids raised in the same household by an alcoholic dad. One grows up to be a doctor. One grows up to be an alcoholic. What was the catalyst? Perspective. One saw exactly what it was they were going to be. One saw exactly what it is that they didn't want to be. And then they took that and applied it. So if you have the perspective and the ability to see that you have the option there, it's what you do from that point forward. Just because he was an alcoholic doesn't mean you have to be. So if you can see the positive from it, take it and apply it, chances are it'll probably work out a lot better for you than just pounding on the negative and accepting the fact that he was. So this is what I will be.
Oh, absolutely. Good call. Yeah. Good analogy too. It does remind me of a lot of things. There's so many things we can apply because obviously this is all, everything is a choice. It's not what happens. It's how you handle it. One thing I just heard a story on similar to that kind of thing is, I listened to a Joe Rogan clip where he had a guy on there talking about a farmer, like an Asian farmer. And like he would always answer in a weird way. The town would always give their opinion. So like, say like one of his horses, like dies, and they're like, oh, that's so tragic, so tragic. And he's like, maybe we'll see. And then the next day, like 7 wild horses wander onto his property and he gathers the horses and everyone's like, wow, that's so awesome. You're so fortunate, so lucky. He's like, maybe we'll see. And then the next day, his son is training one of those horses and he breaks his leg and the son's leg is broken now. And they're like, oh, it's so tragic. I'm so sorry to hear about your son. And he's like, maybe. And then the next day, like the military comes to, to draft the young men into war. But because his son has a broken leg, he doesn't get drafted to war. He's skipped over. And they're like, oh, that was so lucky. And he's like, maybe. And the point is out of all of these things, is it tragic? Is it lucky? Is it good? Or is it bad? We don't know yet how that's going to impact our life. And that's where the whole pessimism or the negative thinking of where we already know it's a foregone conclusion. Yeah, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck. So I already know what's going to happen. And people label it as a realist. I label it as just being realistic. And really, it's just feeling like you already know how everything is going to go. So what's the point of being positive or having a positive outlook or looking for a silver lining or changing my point of view? It's not going to change anything anyways. And like I said on the last video, an optimist is somebody who believes that the future is uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe this is bad. Maybe it's not. Think about situations that you've been in where like you wanted to date a girl and she said no. And you're like, oh, that's so tragic. And then you find out later it's like she kills her husband or something. And you're like, that she is a murderer. That could have been me. So that rejection was really a good thing. Like some situation, obviously it's an extreme, but I'm just trying to say like some prayer that you wanted that thing to happen and it didn't happen sometimes ends up being a very great thing that didn't happen. Or somebody who you were trying to be close to ended up becoming like a very toxic or hostile person to be around, and you're like, man, good thing I didn't invest in that would have hurt me a lot. So some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers, but it's all in how you look at it. It's not really that it's good or bad. It might be, maybe not, I don't know. It could end up being awesome. You never know. My entire situation that I live in right now is a statistical improbability. There is a 0% chance that if I was a realist, I would have my situation right now have been correct. Statistically, or odds would never have gone the direction that my life has gone. That's pretty awesome. If you take a step back and just appreciate there's the chaos of life and how beautiful it can be. Because I have lovely family here, great friends, good people in my life. There's no way I could have just anticipated the people I would meet, how things would go, the studio and office that we have, the things that have gone this direction. They're all goals that I was working towards, that I put work into, but the people I would meet, the way it would get there, the things that would happen that would be obstacles, the stuff I would learn along the way. Is it great? Is it bad? Is it tragic, or is it exciting? Maybe. We'll see how it plays out. So far, it's more about how I handle what this is instead of saying the judgment of good or bad, because that bad thing could end up becoming a great thing, like that kid with a broken leg not getting drafted to war. Who knows what would happen in that? It seems more likely that being killed in combat is higher than, you know, mending a broken leg. Death is a higher probability.
Yeah, in that scenario, the bad news was actually good news, but it was bad at the time. However, it was good for the future. We just hadn't made it to the good part yet. So what looked bad was bad, but only for that moment. Um, when you talk about zooming out from like a magnifying, you're only 2 inches away from the page, it's hard to see what it says around what you're focused on. But if you pull back and you actually take a clear look, you get the full story of what is going on. But most people don't pull back. They just look at what it is that's directly in their face. They don't have the awareness to look at what could be, what might be, what the probability is. But where you said it's crazy how I call them chain of events lead bad things into good things. Something as simple as, and I'm talking like microseconds worth of adjustments in your day that maybe you're not even conscious of making. You wake up 3-4 times in the middle of the night, so you're dead tired. So maybe you wake up late to your alarm. So now you're rushing to be able to get through the house, get your shower, jump in the car, head to work. You're already 10 minutes late and you're stuck behind traffic. It's backed up for 8 miles. Well, you woke up late for your alarm. 8 miles could have been 10 minutes. That wreck that happened because you woke up 3, 4, 5 times out of the night, pissed off because you couldn't sleep well, might have saved your fucking life. So yeah, you're tired. You were late. You were irritated. Your morning started off bad. But microseconds worth of alteration in your day could change the entire outcome of what will be for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, your entire life. We just don't take the time to notice that our conversation here tonight not happening could have put me something very different in my life that could be better or worse. But not taking that route, I'll never know. This particular moment, I made the choice for, though. So whatever happens from here, I had some relevance in controlling its outcome. Other stuff, not so much. Walked through my house and I barely grazed my toe on the table. I could have stubbed it. That would have hurt. But I didn't. Had it happened, I'd have been cussing like a sailor, though. And that would have been the end of my good day if I let it.
It's a good point. Remember that scene in Benjamin Button when like the girl, did you ever watch Benjamin Button?
When it first came out, that was 942 decades ago. I don't remember yesterday.
All right. Well, I'll explain it like you haven't seen it. So there's a scene where like when she's young, she's a ballet dancer and she's like amazing. She's an amazing dancer. This amazing dancer life. And she's in like France or something. And there's a scene where it shows like this one person who is completely unrelated to her, like left their place, but then like forgot their keys. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, but they turn around to go grab their keys so they can start their cars. And that, few seconds changed that person's entire trajectory because they would have been, 10 seconds ahead on any other day. But on this day, they were 10 seconds behind. And so they had to go back and grab their keys and then go to this thing. Because of their job, they got there a little late, which means they were behind on this delivery, which that delivery went to this person, but now they're 10 seconds behind. So it's something that's not really a big deal. 10 seconds wouldn't really be a big deal, but it was this big chain reaction of all these people who interact with each other, but it's 10 seconds behind what it would have been if those keys weren't missed or they didn't forget their keys for that 10 seconds. And if that would have been on schedule, the car would have been pulling right by them as she walked out of the studio, like past this like garbage, the dumpster area. Car would have went right by. Nobody would have noticed, would have been any other day. But because of that 10-second delay or that few second delay, as she walks out and walks, past the dumpster, as she hits that, that's when the car is there exactly. And not enough time to stop and just hits her, breaks her legs. She's never able to dance again like that. Just that couple seconds changes that person's entire life, changes their whole trajectory, changes everything because, one circumstance didn't go ideal. That person forgot to grab their keys and it put a whole chain reaction into play. And so it's amazing how many of these moments that we end up on the positive side where you weren't in the car crash, you were in the traffic jam, where you weren't the one hit, but you got splashed by water, where something happens and we discount our blessing because we don't know it even was one.
But you have to look at it from the other side too. Like, yeah, that altered that girl's entire life. She's no longer able to dance now. What about the person in the car that hit her? What happened within their day that put them on the track to be where they were in order to hit her? And what happens to their life after it? Depending on how they view it, what they take from it. Hell, that person now might have a heavy involvement in paraplegics. They may go into life-saving technology that is implemented in electronics of cars to sense that. Like there's so many things that could unfold from it if you have the perspective to go, okay, that was a shitty situation. What can we do to make it better?
Or they could just blame them for not looking both ways and trying to alleviate any accountability to the situation as being like something I can do something about. Being that everything is a choice, man, do we have the options to do greatness or do terrible things? But it really is like a point of view thing. And I remember having a conversation. If you ever, that painting, what's it called? A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of, is it Le Grand Jatte or something like that? It's that one that was, it was it George Seurat's like painting where he does all the dots. Like every single color is dots. I couldn't hear what you said.
I said, no, I've never seen George Strait paint a picture.
George Strait, okay. Like George Seurat or something like that.
No, I don't know the picture you're talking about.
I can send it to you, but it's like a picture of just a bunch of people in like the park just sitting down, and there's like water in the top, and at the bottom there's like a dog playing and stuff like that. And if you look really, really, really close, it's just little dots. Like that's all it is. It's just like different dots, all just put through the whole thing. But far away, you can see an entire image, but up close, it's just little dots. And if you're looking down at the bottom of this photo, the closer you look, the more you just see dots. A little further back, you can see a little dog. And depending on where you are, it's going to be a different thing no matter how close or how far you are to it. So if we're both the same distance away and we can see just a piece of it, you're going to say that it's a boat on the water. And I'm going to say it's a dog on the land. And people will argue. They'll argue that, no, you're an idiot. It's a boat on water. Don't you know what a boat looks like? No, stupid. Have you ever seen a dog before? It's a dog. Dogs aren't boats, dummy. And people get into this back and forth judgments and arguments based on their point of view on how wrong someone is or how right they are, because they see a dog and the other person sees a boat. But if you take a few more steps back, you'll see that you're both right, because it's on the same photo where there's a boat at the top and there's a dog at the bottom. So you're both right. You're just looking at a different part of the photo. And I guess that's why it's so interesting that we handle like so much conflict about points of view with each other in such a negative way when you take a step back and you realize we're all in the same painting here.
Yeah, they did the same thing with the one person sees a 6, one person sees a 9. It's just the different side of it. Do you see gold and blue, or do you see a white and black, or whatever that dress was?
Yeah, I remember that one. You ever heard the sound one, the Laurel and Yammy?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you hear?
I don't remember. It was a while ago.
I heard it be like Laurel, Laurel, Laurel. And like my girls are like, it's saying Yammy. I'm like, it's saying Laurel. Like it's saying Yammy. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen this magic trick. You guys are all just goofing on me. But really, people are hearing the other one, and it's not even close.
No, I don't really have much in the way for that. I know the dress one was actually like broken down into like the scientific aspect, that some people can actually see a wider range of colors than others. I think there was 3 separate categories. Small percentile was people that had like, I think it was above 35 colors that they could see. So that kind of answered as to why a very large portion of the world saw it different than the smaller portion. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We don't have the ability to see things the way they do, so we can't alter that. The things we can take control of is being able to adjust what it is that we're seeing based off the new information. So if you and I are looking at a boat and land, or a dog and water, if you point it out to me, I can stand on that. I can die on that hill. This is what it is. Or I can go, all right. I hear what you're talking about. My whole thing is it important enough? Where's that rank on the priority for me to be right and absolute in what I see versus being able to look at a different point of view? I would rather obtain new information than be absolute. I've been wrong before. I'll do it again. I know this as much as I do that you and I are talking right now. So I've already made that predetermination that if new information is brought to me, I'll be open to it. And if it makes enough sense, we'll move forward with that.
No, I think you're absolutely, I'm in the same boat. It reminds me, and I hate that everything always ends up going towards relationships. Maybe it's just because of how much I'm studying it right now. But I remember watching a Jordan Peterson thing saying about how to like a very difficult strategy in a tough argument of like really listening or even writing as the other person is talking. And you don't get to say your part until you can repeat back well enough what they've said that they feel like, yes, you got what I said right. Like really listen to them and write. Like, so what you're saying is you see it this way, you see it this way, you see it this way. If they say no, that one part is actually like this, and they keep on going, you just write and go, okay, so you see it this way, you see it this way, you see it this way. And they go, yes, that's how I see it. Now they've been heard. You're like, all right, here's how I see it. And then they reciprocate that same exercise where they make sure they have the way that you see it correct before they go and do a rebuttal or something back and forth. That strategy is difficult to do. It sounds simple, but it's not easy to do because we're so programmed to be right, or like to jump in on like, no, you're wrong, like, and be right. But being able to do that does what you said and gives me the opportunity to understand. We're both not against each other here. I just don't understand fully where you're coming from, but I would like to.
I like the concept, but like with the dress, like you and another person have very different genetic makeups, how your brain works, the way you view things, the way you hear things, the way you see things. What I'm saying may not be what you're hearing, and we can correct that. But does it make sense by the time that you understand what I'm saying for you to get the logic behind it? How many colors can you see? If you can only see 12 colors and I can see 35, what I'm saying, you may hear, you may even understand the words, but not understanding the point is still going to leave a huge gap between how many colors I can see that you cannot.
Which is fair, which would lead you ultimately to either we disagree, which people, it's not that big a deal. Like people make disagreements like we have to get into a screaming match. Like if I completely understand you see blue and you understand I'm seeing, yellow or whatever, you like I'm explaining, no, I know that this is it. And here's some references of other colors that I know look just like this. And you're like, well, those other ones match up to be yellow to me. I see blue that looks like this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, those other things are blue. I'm going to take an account that you see this as blue. And you take account, I see it as yellow.
You're stupid for seeing it as yellow.
What's that?
You're stupid for seeing it as yellow.
Well, then it's when like blame, shame, judgment comes in. And then you assess like whether you're like, well, I hear what you think smart is and what dumb is. I don't agree with you. And
well,
that's
I don't care
okay.
what you agree with. It's not yellow.
And that's okay. It is yellow. And that's, you see blue, I see yellow. Okay. I accept that you see blue. If you can't accept that I see yellow, which one of us is really the smart one?
And that's where that race to acceptance comes in. Because I'm willing to die on the hill that you're stupid for seeing yellow when I can't. It's not a matter of whether it's there or not. It's just a matter of I can't see it, so therefore it doesn't exist to me. And if it doesn't exist to me, then obviously that can't be accurate.
Point of view. It's a 6. Eddie, it's not a 9. I'm looking at it.
Well, let me come to your side. Oh, shit, you're right. We all go over there where I was standing. Oh, look at that. It is a 6.
Yeah, one thing I have, it's funny, I've had people in my family and stuff who would do that. When like they'd be like, you are a moron. It's a 9. You're not even close. You're an idiot. And then later on, I'll be talking to them again, and they'll be like, yeah, so from where I see it, I went to the other side, and that's a 9. And if you think it's a 6, you're stupid. And I'm like, what? You don't remember me telling you that was a 9?
This just happened. And I think that's where pride and ego come into play is no one wants to be wrong. No one wants to lose. No one wants to give up. And being embarrassed about it is more often than not what keeps people from being open to new information is because their original hill may not have had the best vantage point for the perspective that you had from your hill. So rather than traveling just a little bit outside of what they know, what they're comfortable with, where they've been for so long, I'm just gonna say, fuck it. This is what I know. This is what I see. This is what I accept. So whatever it is that you see, it can't be accurate because I don't want to feel uncomfortable about my original position.
Yeah, it shows the fragility of our egos. And I think if you're getting to that point, it's if you have a practice in awareness, and obviously we talked even last time, practicing awareness is super important, especially internally. And if you're getting frustrated or judging or pissed off, or because our opinions are different, and you start getting defensive or offensive about it, that's exposing how fragile your confidence or your ego or your pride is, because you're having a very emotional reaction instead of having, like you said, the race to acceptance. And you may get caught up in anger, or you may get caught up in feeling like guilty, or having like some sort of pain of loss or something, or just be in denial, like screw it, I'm not even gonna, I don't even care. like there's all these steps that we'll go through, but ultimately just going like, all right, I accept that you see what it is that way, and if you accept what I see, we can agree that we don't see it the same. But it doesn't really affect like who I am that you see it differently. It doesn't make us not cool anymore. I just don't see it the way you see it. And maybe I will someday, but right now I don't. And that's okay. Let's hug it out and get some food. Like, you hungry? Like we can both agree we're hungry.
I also think that lack of information comes into play a lot because if I explain something to you and it makes perfect sense in my head, but I'm not communicating it correctly to be able to convey the message properly, it doesn't matter how perfect it is. What I'm saying isn't matching what I know or what I'm thinking. So what you're hearing, even though you hear all of it, I'm missing 10% of this. So what I know 100% of, you're only getting 90% of it. And that missing 10% could very well be the key that goes, shit, all right. Well, you didn't say that. Oh, well,
Well, I
yeah,
thought it. Why didn't you know what I was thinking?
I meant what you knew.
And to get more into that one, check out our last episode that we just did before this one, called the Relationship Progress Report, that lets you know how well you're communicating when you're trying to share something with somebody and it's coming up short. How do you know if you're doing a good job or not? But that was our last episode that we just did. But I think it's a good point, and especially I still go back to just it's the exposure of how fragile you are, whether it be your character or your pride or your ego. If you start losing your mind just because you can't see what they see, when it gets into blame, shame, or judgment, you're stupid, you're an idiot, fuck you, like all these attacks or defensive posturing that goes into it, really is just the exposure of how incomplete you are in being able to handle the situations. Which, if you were able to be objective about yourself, you'd go, now I can see what area I need to work on for me to improve my own strength internally, be more confident, whether it be improve competency and do more practice, or just learn to let things go or be more accepting of the other person. It's the exposure that tells you, here's how I need to practice me being better, so that when a situation comes up, like we don't see it the same way, it doesn't turn into a blowout. It turns into like I accept you, you accept me. Okay, cool. Like, I hear where you're coming from, you hear where I'm coming from. At the end of the day, the beauty is while we're all human beings, we're all still different too. We're all individuals. And so that's okay that we're not all the same.
So what I'm hearing is in order to be able to better handle change, you need to remove a large amount of your ego, if not all of it. Be willing to take new information in, see things from a different perspective, and look for all of the information within the situation, whether it be positive or negative. Take it all and then remove the things that don't benefit you. And then you have enough of a foundation to be able to go, okay, this is now
Plus,
where I'm at.
plus have a little curiosity that some of the things you think are bad, maybe they won't be.
True. Because what's bad now may not be bad later. What you didn't want to happen may actually have led to what you did want to happen. It's just not the way you saw it. So taking all of those can create a good foundation for you to be able to change in a better and a more efficient manner.
think you nailed it. That's how when you're handling a job change or you're handling changing in your life, these are the tools that you can kind of apply to any piece of that to come to the acceptance of what your situation is and then how to improve yourself. So I don't know. I think that was a fun way to kind of just open that up and have a whole bunch of stories, give people a little bit different points of views and perspectives and break it down from both sides. And I appreciate you for that, Eddie.
No doubt.
All right. So for any of you who actually made it this far into it, you can follow Eddie right now at pure.defiance on Instagram and on TikTok. And you can check out more stuff from us on justamileaday.com. You can click on the link if you're one of the guys who believes that you're a warrior who is not fulfilling their purpose, who is missing pieces in their life, who doesn't feel like they're being the man in their relationships or isn't finding themselves to be complete in whatever way it is that they're missing, whether it's being depressed or angry or in denial or going through traumas or PTSD or anything that's really stopping you from fulfilling a purpose or feeling fulfilled. Check us out on justamileaday.com under Everything is a Choice. See if you're one of the guys who would fit in with Eddie and I and the rest of the guys who are in the group. Otherwise, you can check out just at Amazon. You can get Everything is a Choice, get an intro book to this, and then just keep watching, subscribe, hit the buttons, do all the stuff for us, and send some comments on what you want us to break down in these ways. And maybe, just maybe, we don't know how much that'll affect other people's lives, just like the little things that we talked about at the beginning have affected mine or yours or anybody's. So every little bit counts. Every second seems to have a chain reaction. So go ahead and subscribe, send some comments, and we'll see if that leads to a chain reaction of us doing a video either with you or about what you said. Other than that, I'm good. Eddie, you good?
I'm good.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Choice.
When you clean a vacuum, do you become the vacuum cleaner?
Yeah. I'm the vacuum cleaner.